That's true.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms, will you please call to order our November 21st meeting of the Memphis City Council? I would like to recognize our chaplain of the day, Reverend Dr. Earl Fisher from Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church has been invited by Councilwoman Michael and Easter Thomas. Reverend Dr. Fisher, will you please lead us in prayer?
Let us pray. Holy God, we come to you today in the spirit of gratitude, thanking you for how you have called such a great city into being. We thank you for the ability to stand in halls we have deemed sacred. We thank you for how your hand has been, is, and will continue to be on this city as we honor its past, affirm its present, and seek to shape its future. We thank you, O God, for the grace by which you have formed this body, and we ask your continued provision, protection, and prophetic perspective for each of its members. Even in the midst of leadership transition, we ask that you remind us of the value you place in your people and how your hands have helped shape the structure of this city. Make us all more sensitive to the gifts you have granted us in the natural resources of air and water and land, and hold us accountable for the way we treat it. Moreover, hold us accountable for the way we treat the people in it. People made in your image, people you have caused us to be in direct relationship and proximity with. May we all share in the city's peace, prosperity, and power. For this body, oh God, I pray that where there has been cowardice, you grant us courage. Where there has been mismanagement, you grant us mercy. Where there has been exploitation, you grant us empathy. And where there has been insensitivity, you grant us inclusivity. Call forth in us the creativity, compassion, and character that manifests in the welfare of the city. We pray for a budget that represents the best of human values. We pray for policies that reflect the beauty of a humble society. And we pray for laws that reveal the benevolence of humane vitality. Above all, oh God, give us the holy help to make all these things be so. And we pray this in your name with thanksgiving. Ashe and amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilwoman Easter Thomas.
Afternoon, colleagues in the city of Memphis. It is my honor. What'd you say? Oh, okay. It is my honor to have Dr. Reverend Earl Fisher, head of the Blackest Church in Shelby County, with today being chaplain of the day of the Memphis City Council. In recognition of a life of exemplary qualities, outstanding service to the city, meritorious involvement in humanitarian affairs, and demonstrated concern for governmental process, has been appointed chaplain of the day of the Memphis City Council and is hereby entitled to all honors, rights and privileges, and prerogatives appertaining to the office and the display of the certificate given under this seal this 21st day of November, 2023. Martavius Jones, Chairman, presented by Michael and Easter Thomas, City Council, District 7. Thank you so much for your service, you being here, Reverend Doctor.
Thank you.
Dr. Fisher, thank you for your kind words of prayer this afternoon, sir. Madam Comptroller, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council members Canali. Here. Carlisle. Here. Colvette. Here. Easter Thomas. Ford. Johnson. Logan. Present. Morgan. Here. Robinson. Present. Vice Chairman Smiley. Swearingen Washington. Present. Warren. Present. Chairman Jones.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we have the minutes read or the minutes approved of last meeting, Councilman Carlisle, will you be making an amendment to the minutes? Okay. Carlisle? Okay. I thought you were going to do both. Okay. Councilman Canali.
Colleagues, you should all have a copy of updated language to the tow ordinance. The fees did not change what we voted on last meeting. The only thing that did change was updating the language to the different classes of vehicles, A, B, and C, from the increase in weight classifications, and also the towing capacity for the tow vehicles to be in accordance with THP's guidelines. And I so move.
Okay. We're pulling that item from the minutes. So what we'll first do, let me recognize Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, if there's no objection from the chair, I think we can move that amendment and add it back and ratify the same night, or ratify last meeting's minutes as amended in one vote.
Okay. Madam Comptroller, we can do it that way. Okay. So Vice Chair isn't here. Councilwoman Swearingen Washington, have you read the minutes from our last meeting? Have you reviewed our minutes from our last meeting?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have reviewed the minutes and find them to be in order. I move for the adoption of the November 7 meeting minutes.
As amended.
As amended.
And if you could do so electronically, please.
Thank you.
Okay, our minutes have been moved and seconded. Seeing no members in the queue, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen as amended for our minutes?
Thank you. For the record, that was seconded by Councilmember Carlisle.
Yes.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvette, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
Okay, that item is approved. Welcome to the November 21st, 2023 regular meeting of the Memphis City Council. Meetings of the council shall be conducted in an orderly manner to ensure that the public has the full opportunity to be heard and the deliberative process of the council is retained at all times. The Sergeant at Arms has meeting agendas available up front as well as comment cards for members of the public wishing to speak, wishing to be heard on a specific item. All of those wishing to speak on an item must turn in their comment card to the Sergeant at Arms before the item is called. If you're here to speak on a specific item, you can note your request to give general comments. If you're not here to speak on a specific item, you can note your request to give general comments at the end of the meeting. As chair, I will only recognize citizens that properly registered to speak by submitting a completed comment request card to the Sergeant at Arms. Members of the audience and persons addressing the council will not be permitted to engage in gossip, make defamatory, personal, slanderous, or profane comments, or use abusive or vulgar language. Chairperson of the council may maintain order by giving any persons who are in violation of the stated rules of decorum a warning to cease any violative conduct in order to leave the council's chamber, or by giving an order for security personnel to remove any disruptive person in the council's chamber who refuses to remove themselves voluntarily. Madam Comptroller, items number 29, or item number 29 will be held to the first meeting in 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We also have item number 7 will be held until the December 19th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And item number 29 will be held until the, item number 2 will be held until the December 5th meeting.
So noted, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and item 29, just make sure I said this correctly. Item 29 will be held until the first meeting in February 2024. So 2/7/29, those are the holds. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 1?
Item number 1 is a resolution honoring Flip My Life TV, a nonprofit organization in Memphis. This resolution is sponsored by Councilman Kovac.
Councilman Covett.
Mr. Chairman, while everyone is coming up, it is an honor to represent District 2, but also to speak of a good friend who's come through to us on the television set for a little while. She started, when she was 10, I'm sure. Mary Beth Conley is here, and she's felt a calling. And if you were there at the movie, and Chairman, I think you were, a couple Thursdays ago, we saw that Flip My Life is more than just an idea. It is fast becoming true reality for Memphis. So now that we're all here, my honor, Councilman Warner and I. Whereas on occasion, the Memphis City Council has seen fit to honor the organizations who have enriched the community, and Flip My Life is certainly a nonprofit organization worthy of recognition. And whereas Flip My Life is a beacon of light in the city of Memphis, focused on creating and cultivating an environment that focuses on restorative. I didn't go to Yale. Sorry, guys. Restorative justice by transforming dilapidated homes into homes for individuals transitioning out of the criminal justice system. And
whereas the goal for the homes renovated on each season of the Flip My Life web series is to foster a space that contributes to the reduction in barriers for individuals who want to reintegrate into the Memphis community. And whereas Flip My Life is a sizable project that could not be accomplished without the individuals working behind the scenes as well as featured in front of the camera, including Michael Morrison, Tim Meyer, Chris Henning, Mary Beth Conley, and Rick Woodall. And
whereas the Memphis City Council offers its sincere condolences to the family of Michael Morrison, whose life was tragically cut short before he could see the fruits of his labor on Flip My Life. Now therefore be it resolved that the Memphis City Council wholeheartedly celebrates and commends Flip My Life on the unwavering dedication to remedying the inequities in the justice system. Be it further resolved that we extend our gratitude to all those who contributed to this organization and invite everyone to join in by watching the Flip My Life web series as each episode is published online. Given by my hand and under the great seal of the city of Memphis, this 21st day of November, 2023, Frank Colvett, Memphis City Councilman, Jeff Warren, Memphis City Councilman, and our chairman, Martavius Jones.
Thank you so much. I want to introduce the real talent behind this, Chris Henning, Tim Meyer, and Lindy Morrison is the wife of Michael Morrison, who was with us until maybe the last 2 weeks. He loved Memphis. He loved this project because a lot of the project is to show that there's so much more heart in Memphis than the headlines show. And we hope that's what the project shows. Clay asked us to bring a short video that gives you an idea. Is that, if you'd like, it's maybe 90 seconds long. It'll give you a little bit of an idea. You can find it on YouTube @ Flip My Life Television. Thank you so much. This would not have been possible without Memphis City Council, particularly Vice Chair Smiley and Chairman Martavius Jones, who sponsored a resolution giving us some funding. Thank you so much.
Amen. Look, she made a plan.
And watch TV and television has frightened us. So they're afraid of what they don't understand. They don't realize that I'm a great guy. But on some days, I made bad decisions. But I'm still a great guy.
Well, it's a dump.
The question is, what do we see when we see a house that's been abandoned and untended, that nobody's tried to take care of?
What we got.
Do we see it only as blight that's bringing down the neighborhood?
I mean, look at the detail. Isn't that beautiful?
Or do we try to see it for what it could be?
We could either do a deck across there or pour concrete and have it all the way down through there with an open gable roof.
But all it takes is a little love and a lot of work for blight to become beautiful.
That ain't the same house.
It's a place where y'all can continue to change lives.
You like it?
And the same is true with people.
I ended up turning into a teenage father at the age of 14. So I opted to put down the football and kind of pick up drugs and gang life.
Couldn't get a job anymore. It was about 110 pounds soaking wet, on crystal meth. But then started just stealing stuff to support my habit.
By me not finishing school, I couldn't ever get no job. I started breaking in houses, started robbing people. I was like, this how I gotta get it, this how I gotta get it. Nobody ain't trying to help me, so.
I've had the opportunity of being a part of some very special kids' lives. They're doing some really good things now, just kind of really blossom into the individuals that they want to be.
I'll die happy put it on my tombstone knowing that I helped people see themselves appropriately through the eyes of their creator. He's like, man, I know you and I love you.
When I was in the streets, I did a lot of bad things. And I could have been dead a lot of times, but God was with me, I'm still here. But now I'm trying to help people the right way.
It was a year filled with surprises. Not all of them good, but a couple of them really great.
Yeah, when were you there?
And sometimes the biggest surprise of all is the person you become when you find yourself in the kind of desperate situation so many people are born into. Renovation shows are considered reality TV. This one's just a little more real than most, much like the city in which it's set.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, my profuse apologies, Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
Without objection.
Madam Comptroller, will you please show that that item has been approved by acclamation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can you go on the Cooper room? You can talk to Yellow on the Cooper room. Just got a question. Cooper said.
Before we move on to our next order of business, I want to take a point of personal privilege and recognize, since our last meeting, we have a couple of new council member-elect, who were successful in their runoff election. So I'd like to take this time to recognize Councilwoman-elect Jerry Green, and Councilwoman-elect Pearl Walker. She was here early. I don't know if Councilwoman Yolanda Cooper Sutton. Okay, you're here too. And then I also want to welcome back officially Councilwoman Michaelyn Easter Thomas, who was successful in her runoff as well. Thank you. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 3?
Item number 3 is a resolution pursuant to Chapter 9.6 of the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, approving a planned development at the subject property located at 2977 Broad Avenue. This resolution is sponsored by the Division of Planning and Development. The case number is PD 23-24.
Okay, Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This item
was not held or discussed in committee. It was sent down without recommendation. Therefore, we do need a presentation.
Okay.
But I so move it.
Thank you. So that item has been moved and seconded, and we'll have a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brett Ragsdale with the Division of Planning and Development. This is PD 2324. It is named Broad Arts Plan Development. It's at 2977 Broad Avenue in District 5 and Super District 9. Josh Whitehead with Birch Porter Johnson is the representative. Is a request for a plan development for a commercial shopping center on about 1.6 acres. It's currently zoned residential single family 6 and CMU 1, commercial mixed use 1. So it is a site with 3 frontages at Sam Cooper, Tillman, and Broad, as you can see here with the pink star. You've seen this property before a couple of times. Last year, at the beginning of last year, it was actually rejected for a convenience store with gas pumps and a retail center. So you may recognize it from that. This is slightly different, or actually quite a bit different from that proposal. The land uses surrounding it there's single family to the west and then institutional and commercial on the other sides. This is an aerial view of the subject site at Sam Cooper and Tillman. You can see the dance collage on the left-hand side here. Site photo looking to the east, down Sam Cooper. And this is a site plan showing the layout, which has buildings fronting Tillman and going along Sam Cooper. And to the bottom left is a drive-through coffee shop that has queuing off of the interior parking lot. And I want to mention that because you may have heard about some opposition. There was originally queuing for the coffee shop off of Sam Cooper, and so we worked with the applicant to revise that, and so the opposition was happy with that. So that's one thing I would note from some of the original application comments. There's a couple of renderings of the proposal. Again, it's retail, some restaurant space, coffee shop, and lining the Sam Cooper Boulevard in Tillman with streetscape, and we believe that's quite a bit of an improvement from what we have now. So again, it is a request for a commercial plan development. It's currently zoned R6 and CMU1, and we did work with them again on the queuing space for the coffee shop, and so we recommended approval with outline plan conditions, which you can see here, and Land Use Control Board also recommended approval to the City Council. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We have comments from Councilman Carlisle and Morgan there in the queue. You're recognized, Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, I'm very excited. This was a case. It was before this body almost a year ago. It was very contentious. It took a long time and a lot of discussion, and we turned down a use that included a gas station, and the patience has paid off. That there's an opportunity on such a critical corner to complement the neighborhood with amenities like retail and a coffee shop and things that can help both down Broad Avenue and all the way down Tillman and into the neighborhood with Collage Dance Studio. So I just am very pleased with the outcome because I know we all took kind of a risk. We didn't know if this would get developed anytime soon. So I'm very excited about the opportunity. I wish the applicant and his development team the best of luck getting it off the ground. So with that, I hope everyone will support this project and we can keep building Binghamton back. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Morgan.
Going to echo exactly what Councilman Carlisle said. I really appreciate kind of the faith of my colleagues and the community that came forward last time we had this piece of property in front of us to vote down the gas station. Because here we are, we have this being developed, and we've got a bank that's coming in under contract, a coffee shop, and retail that will certainly follow. And this is a community that needs a bank. And needs those kind of services and jobs and shopping that's going to be there. This is certainly a highest and best use, and we did have to take a risk and kind of turning down a bird in the hand, hoping for two in the bush, and here it's being delivered. And I think this is going to be something for hopefully decades to come. When I drive by this property, I'm going to smile because this is going to be a direct result of the deliberations and votes and decisions that we made here to be able to get this property and this use to as good and active a purpose as we have here presented today. And I appreciate my colleagues' support today again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Morgan. Councilwoman Logan.
Just wanted to echo my colleagues. I'm so excited that we decided to stand our ground and fight for this community. We have a lot of gas stations coming in and out. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but in certain places. And so I'm very grateful to to Director Zena and his department and everyone that helped in making certain. And I'm sorry. Mr. Britt, I always forget you. Okay, so, but to be able to see us hold out for this community and to see this that's coming is so exciting, because we want to see this happen in all communities. We don't have to just settle for what has been, but we can imagine what we want to see and make that happen. So I'm appreciative to my colleagues as well. This is going to be something special for all communities, because this is what happens when we work together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that I might have been one to support the gas station back then.
I didn't name names.
Okay, well, no, look, I'm taking responsibility for it right now, and I was absolutely wrong.
Yep.
Absolutely wrong. And so I'm just delighted that we have something besides a gas station going into this location. And I hope that the council next year realizes that we are much more valuable. Our land is much more valuable. And then, part of the discussion too is as we go to the electrification process of vehicles, that we already probably have enough gas stations to begin with. But I will be the first to admit I was wrong, and I supported the gas station there, but I'm just pleased and delighted to see what's going in that location. So I don't know if the applicants wanted to say anything or make any type of remarks. There was nobody in opposition. Was there anybody in opposition that's present, Mr. Ragsdale, that you know of?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, seeing no other council members in the queue, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colbert, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearinger Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes.
Thank you.
Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 4?
Item number 4 is a resolution pursuant to Chapter 9.6 of the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, approving a planned development at the subject property located at 3337 Overton Crossing Street. This resolution is sponsored by the Division of Planning and Development. It was held from November 7th. The case number is PD 23-09.
Thank you. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This item was discussed in committee, but it came down without any recommendation, and I so move.
Okay, that item has been moved by Councilwoman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. Before we call on Mr. Ragsdale and the applicant, Mr. Wade, I think that you were going to weigh in on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the last time this matter was before us, there was a question raised by the applicant about whether they could, under state law, extend the use and structure of this property as a matter of right. What's before you now is a planned development, which allows you to do it by planned development with conditions.
Oh, no.
We were asked to research the question of whether or not they had to have your approval at all in order to increase the structure, make the changes that they're proposing. This matter was researched by me and Assistant Council Attorney Brianna Owens, and she authored an opinion that's been passed out to you. And I'll call your attention to page 3 of that opinion. If you look at the bottom, what happens is that we aren't governed by state law. We're governed by a private act. And the private act made a part of our charter before the state law was provided. And state law specifically defers to any pre-existing private act or charter provision like ours. Section 156 of our charter governs non-conforming uses, and it provides that the lawful use of a building existing at the time of adoption of an ordinance.
Mr. Wade, can you bring the microphone closer to you?
Yeah.
Okay, much better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Okay, the lawful use of a building existing at the time of adoption of an ordinance under the provisions of this act, although such use does not conform to the provisions of such ordinance, may be extended throughout the building, provided, and this is the relevant portion, no structural alterations except those required by law and ordinance are made therein. Presently, the UDC does not allow these uses to be, the proposed uses to be made because they will extend the structure and also provide for new structural alterations. Accordingly, this provision preempts the state law that the applicant was relying on, and because they are proposing to make structural alterations, those are prohibited under our charter and under the present provisions of the UDC. Also, one exception that is contained in section 156 is if the alterations are those required by law and ordinance. Under our charter, I think it's 157, is the provision that allows planned developments to be a deviation from the normal zoning provisions, and those deviations may be made by this council in its discretion by adopting a planned development. Under the Bluff Walk decision and several other decisions, they point out that when you adopt a planned development, you do so by resolution, but because you are adopting a resolution pursuant to the authority of an ordinance, that counts as an exception to this section 156. So as I understand it, this matter came to Division of Property Development as a forbearance, and it ended up coming to you as a planned development because that's the only way they saw a path forward for it to be approved. So in the short answer to the argument of the applicant that they don't need your approval, to the contrary, they do. They cannot perform any of these structural alterations without your approval of a planned development conditioned as you deem appropriate in your discretion.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. We have Councilman Colvett in the queue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'll save my comments, but I think we'd all could use a refresher presentation. So can we have the presentation? Then I'd like to kind of frame the conversation.
Surely. Mr. Ragsdale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brett Ragsdale with the Division of Planning and Development. I think, again, as Councilman Colvett mentioned, I think you're aware of the project. We've talked about it several times, but it's been a few months, so I'll give a brief presentation. Mr. Wade discussed a lot of the items that you had questions about, but there were also some questions about our analysis and review, so I just wanted to highlight a couple of those things. Again, it's a new plan development to allow an expansion of an existing pawn shop. And the reason that it's a PD and not a special use permit, pawn shops are allowed by special use permit in commercial mixed use 2, 3, and CBD, CMP2, and EMP. However, they're not allowed by special use permit in CMU1, so the only way to expand is through a PD. And one of the reasons, so we did look at the purpose of a PD in the Unified Development Code and some of the language there, which is to create a more desirable use of the land. They're intended as a tool to allow creative and imaginative design. So that was part of our analysis. And then it is a nonconformity. It's a legal nonconforming use. So it is allowed to stay in operation as a legal nonconforming use. However, the nonconformities chapter leads us to our final determination where they are designed to curtail substantial investment in nonconformities and to bring about their eventual elimination where appropriate in order to preserve the integrity of the regulations established in this development code. So again, those are some of the questions that we had been asked about how our analysis was performed. So here is a zoning map showing the CMU1. To the west is CMU2. And to the north, there is the land use. You can see there's some single-family residential, which is the yellow, commercial where this property is located, and then a little bit of industrial to the south, as well as some institutional. Some site photos of the site, which we've seen before, showing the current conditions. This is the proposed addition to the site, which Cash America would be allowed, again, as a legal nonconformity to do renovations and upgrades to the property. However, any expansion would not be allowed, which is why they're here today. This is a proposed site plan showing the expansion in the red box there, a landscape plan, some site photos. There's an aerial at the top left shows where the expansion would be. Again, more photos, as well as the nonconformity section in the PD. We did do an analysis for Memphis 3.0, and we found that it was inconsistent with the future land use map for Memphis 3.0. And so in the conclusions, we did recommend rejection. However, the Land Use Control Board did recommend approval. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Sergeant at Arms, do we have any comment cards on this item? Okay. We didn't. Ms. Covette?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, I'm sorry. Colleagues, this one was kind of tough. I'm always usually pretty careful about not sharing my opinions on planning and zoning cases. And in my 8 years on council, I guess I can say it now, I'm not a fan of pawn shops, not. But what we had to do on this case is look at what is the real question here, okay? And that's what I want to talk with you guys about, framing the question. For our council members elect, legal nonconforming basically means that they're, for lack of better words, grandfathered in. It reminds me of the Belmont Grill over on Poplar. You know, they had parking right off of Poplar. They're legal nonconforming, grandfathered in. The moment they change that footprint, they would have to get approval and probably lose those parking spaces. This case is a lot along the same lines. To frame the question appropriately, this has nothing to do with the fact that it is a pawn shop. This is a pawn shop that wants to expand their footprint, that by law they have to have storage on the property of the possessions. And given that, the question is not, is it a pawn shop, but they are grandfathered in. So they're doing the expansion, and that is the question today. The bottom line remains the bottom line. Whether we vote yes or no, the pawn shop stays. It is legal nonconforming. So, colleagues, if we vote no, that pawn shop's open tomorrow. And I would dare say, given the over $1 million they paid for it and the fact that they are having to close another of their branches, that pawn shop, just simply put, is not going anywhere, and they, by right, can stay there. So the question before us, the question is, do we say no and allow the pawn shop to stay exactly as it is, or do we allow them to expand and perform all of the facade upgrades, and I believe even including asphalt, so it's substantial property improvement plus the additional square footage for their holding area. So I close, colleagues, by saying this. My opinion, your opinion, irrelevant, but the question is still the question. If we say no, they're still in business just as they are. If we say yes, they do the expansion, they do the facade improvements, the site improvements, the asphalt improvements. That is simply the question. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other members in the queue, I'd just like to make a comment. I've been texting Reverend Anderson, who remains in strong opposition to this. You know, this is one of those instances where I think that organizations keep waiting the public out, delay, and they get tired. The public gets tired, and we come back with an application, and it's passed and approved. So we can have a nice, decorated, all types of landscape around a nuclear wasteland, or we can have a nuclear wasteland, just leave it as it is. I know that's an extreme comparison here, but still, at the end of the day, it's still a pawn shop, and sometimes we rely upon what the district member says and what their view of it is. Sometimes we don't. And you know, I've not been one to necessarily say I just have to do what's in the best interest of that particular community. Because, like I said, there can't be a hole in your side of the boat, and we all in the same boat, and there not be a hole in mine. So what's good for, if we say that a pawn shop is good for 1 and 7, we're saying it's also good for 9. Well, Super District 9, Super District 8, District 5 as well. So those are just my comments. I know we have Ms. Reeves here who's going to speak on this. I don't see any other members in the queue. Ms. Reeves, the floor is yours.
Cindy Reeves, SR Consulting, 5909 Shelby Oaks Drive, Suite 200. I'm not here to talk to you about how the pawn shop operates. I'm not here to educate you. If you have questions about the pawn shop operation, I do have members of Cash America that are here to answer those questions. I do have a presentation that I have also given you paper copies of, and you asked us to go back and meet with the opposition to see if there was a common ground, to see if we could come to an agreement. That is the first slide. The second slide is the shop that is being closed, which is 1,136 feet away from the existing site. They were leasing this site from Memphis Business Academy, who has asked them to vacate the building December 31st. They were going to combine these two stores. Right now, the Overton Crossing store is the smallest store that Cash America has in Memphis, and they have 16 stores. Next slide. This is a map of the nearest pawn shop to this site. You can tell by this map, the area is not saturated by pawn shops. The nearest one is on Ostapi Highway, and that's 5.6 miles away. Then you've got Easy Pawn on Poplar in Midtown. That's 6.3 miles away, and Best Pawn, which is on Jackson Avenue, which is 6.8 miles away. Next slide. This was just a petition of support prior to Land Use Control Board. We had 763 signatures. Next page. The next is a petition between Land Use Control Board and City Council. We had 2,601 signatures. Next page. Thank you. There are no structural, there's not a structural expansion to the existing building. We're not extending the life of the existing building. That existing building will stay. It's going to be there. They paid $1,230,000 on December the 31st of 2018, and then COVID hit. And now they are ready to expand that building now that the other store is closing, and they need the expansion. They need the additional room. The next slide is the floor plan that clearly shows they're not expanding the floor area of the shop, and the storage is clearly shown as a proposed 2,000 square foot of storage. Next slide. This was a neighborhood meeting that we were required to have, that we had on site, and there were 19 attendants. I was one of them. The other 18 were all Cash America employees. that just shows you that the school didn't come over, the neighbors didn't come over. I did have one phone call from a neighbor and told him that we were expanding to add storage and that we were going to make between $800,000 and $1 million worth of improvements to the site and the building. Next page. This is a staff report, and we disagree with the staff's opinion. We don't feel that it will unduly injure or damage the use, value, and enjoyment of surrounding properties, nor unduly hinder or prevent the development of surrounding properties in accordance with the current development process. We disagree with this. Also, there were no letters received at the time of completion of this report. Next slide. This was an agreement that we came to, that we met with the opposition after the August Land Use Control Board, after the August City Council meeting, and we came to this agreement. We were going to all participate in a pedestrian and customer signal to be put across Overton Crossing. We agreed to pay a third, the city was going to pay a third, and the school was going to pay a third. On September 11th, we were told that that would not be acceptable as an agreement anymore, and the meeting was held on the 12th, and we held it. So next slide. The shops there, Memphis Business Academy bought their shop, their building whenever that shop was already there. They knew it was there. They know it's always going to be there. It's $800,000 to $1 million worth of improvements, and we would appreciate your vote. Next slide is what the end product will be. I'm here if you have any questions. Next slide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Covett.
Yeah, we're belaboring the point. Bottom line is the bottom line. You're going to improve it, so I will be in favor of it. I've met with both sides. I hear what you're saying, Mr. Chairman. We respectfully disagree, and that's fine. Cindy, real quick, your lease is expiring when?
December 31st.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're going to need a vote on this because I'm betting there's going to be some opposition, but I'm going to ask for same night minutes because we have delayed this and delayed this and delayed this. So I offer the amendment for same night minutes. Is there any objection?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You have the ball.
Okay. Colleagues, I don't see anybody else in the queue. Ms. Reeves, I do have one quick question, though. It looks like this neighborhood meeting took place May 24th, so 6 months ago. There haven't been any subsequent meetings?
No, it was August.
Well, this says 5/24.
Oh, yes, our neighborhood meeting that we were required to have. Yes, that took place May the 24th.
Okay.
And we have had several other subsequent meetings, but I did not put in those sign-in sheets. Those are mostly with Memphis Business Academy. The rest of the neighbors were welcoming the improvements.
Great. Okay. Well, seeing no other council members in the queue, Madam Comptroller, well, let me just say, if you could go back, you can go back to the previous screen real quick. I just want to emphasize the Land Use Control Board recommended approving this with conditions, but DPD recommended rejection. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's correct? Okay.
We also added conditions in there that says that there will be no guns or ammunition sold at the site, and we limited the hours from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, and closed on Sundays. We offered those as new conditions.
Thank you. So seeing no other council members in the queue, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, no. Ford, yes. Johnson abstained. Logan, no. Morgan, no. Robinson abstained. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, no.
That item passes.
Mr. Chairman, I move same night minutes on this item.
Okay. Is there a second for same 9 minutes on this item? Okay. Will you second it? Okay, well, no, we'll just do a voice vote on this. So the same night minutes.
Same 9 minutes on item 4. I move it, or do you want to do a special item? You just want to see if there's any opposition.
Yeah, is there any opposition to same night minutes? Okay, there's no opposition to same night minutes on this, so this item will be added to our list of same night minute items. That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 5?
Item number 5 is a resolution pursuant to Chapter 9.6 of the Memphis. Mr. Chairman, before I call item number 5, may I please call the zoning ordinance that's related to it first?
Yes, please.
Thank you. That would take us to item number 6.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I took it out of order. Yes, I'm sorry.
Item number 6 is a zoning ordinance amending ordinance number 5367 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Memphis, Tennessee, adopted on August 10th, 2010, as amended, known as the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, to delete a section of the South Parkway East Residential Corridor Overlay up for third and final reading. This ordinance is sponsored by the Division of Planning and Development. The case number is RC 23-01, ordinance number 5888.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Chair, committee met. Item received a favorable recommendation, and I so move.
Okay, that item has been moved by Councilwoman Johnson, seconded by Councilwoman Swearingen Washington. Mr. Ragsdale, will you provide a presentation on this item?
So Ms. Cobbs was she presented this. I don't have it. I think I can get to the S drive if you want to see a full presentation. She had to actually get a packet to council. Let me see. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to log out and log back in to get access to the S drive, Jonathan, unless I can get it.
Tell him what it was about. Just tell him what it was about. He could.
Do you want, I can just discuss what it's about.
He can.
Okay, well, this item was heard upstairs, but it came down without a recommendation.
Just received a favorable recommendation. This item did.
Well, if no one needs to see a presentation on this item, we'll go ahead, and there's no council member in the queue to speak on it. So, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colbert, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Yes. Councilman Ford. Yeah, if you turn your mic on, please.
Store, right?
Yes.
Reason why they closed that store had been there before I was born. The reason why they closed that store, they stole my van. They stole my van, tried to take the ATM machine out of that store, but they didn't know that store was made of concrete. And they kept ramming my van into it until they got tired and left it in the middle of the parkway. And the police called me and said, hey, your van is sitting in the middle of the street because they tried to knock the wall down in that store, but could not knock it down. I just wanted y'all to know that, but that's why that store closed. The people refused to open it back up again. But it had been there when I was a child. Yeah.
Well, the good news is you saved $100 before Canale raised the tow fee.
An ATM machine, and that was my second van. 2 weeks before then, they stole another van of mine and did the same thing down, and they burned it up now on Kerr Avenue. During those times. So that's why crime, hey, we got police out there. Something else.
What you about that location?
Okay. Yeah, so that was item number 6 that we voted on. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 5?
Item number 5 is a resolution pursuant to Chapter 9.6 of the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, approving a special use permit at the subject property located at 1560 South Parkway East. This resolution is sponsored by the Division of Planning and Development. The case number is SUP 23-14.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Chair, the committee met and we did discuss this item and we did approve it with conditions to be made available to us at this time. So I moved it with the understanding that these conditions would be added to it. So
Okay.
I so move.
Okay, that item has been moved by Councilwoman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. Mr. Ragsdale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brett Ragsdale with the Division of Planning and Development. So we did add 2 conditions and modify 1 condition. So condition number 2 will read, outdoor lighting shall be required at all corners of the building. A lighting plan shall be submitted to the Division of Planning and Development for approval. And then we added condition number 5, the convenience store shall only be opened between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. And condition number 6, any change in convenience store ownership must be processed as a major modification to the special use permit subject to approval by the Memphis City Council.
Okay, thank you for that. Any council members have any questions on this item? Seeing none, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
As amended.
As amended.
As
Yes,
amended.
this is moved as amended.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvette, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call our consent agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our ordinances up for first reading will be found on the add-ons. The first one is number 37, an ordinance to establish city council meeting dates for 2024, up for first reading. Ordinance number 5891 is sponsored by Chairman Jones. Item number 38 is an ordinance to fix and determine the salary and compensation of the mayor pursuant to home rule amendments. Up for first reading, ordinance number 5892 is sponsored by Chairman Jones. Item number 39, also up for first reading on our consent agenda, is a referendum ordinance pursuant to Article 9, Section 9 of the Constitution of the State of Tennessee Home Rule Amendment to amend provisions of the Charter of the City of Memphis, the same being Chapter 11 of the Acts of 1870 as amended, relative to mayor, council, and appointed salaries. Up for first reading, ordinance number 5893 is sponsored by Chairman Jones. We can go back to our regular agenda now under zoning ordinance. Up for first reading is an ordinance amending ordinance number 5367 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Memphis, Tennessee, adopted on August 10th, 2010, as amended, known as the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, to authorize a zoning use district reclassification of land municipally addressed as 3549, 3555, and 3561 Fuller Road from the residential single family -6 R-6 use district and including it in the employment use district. Up for first reading. This ordinance is sponsored by the Division of Planning and Development. The case number is Z23-13, ordinance number 5890. Item number 9 is up for second reading. The case number is Z23-09. The ordinance number is 5889. Item number 10 in our Engineering Division, a resolution approving the final plat for Whitten I-40, Phase 25, final plat re-record with civil plans, quick trip number 7154, and accepting bond as security. There's a request for same night minutes. And item number 11 is a resolution approving a supplemental agreement number 1 for CR-5423 Glide Express Car Wash located at 7555 US Highway 64. And there is a request for same night minutes. The contract number is CR-5423. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our consent agenda items.
Thank you, Madam Comptroller. Our consent agenda has been moved by Councilwoman Swearengin Washington, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Swearengin Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call our fiscal consent agenda?
That will take us to item number 12, a resolution to accept grant funds in the amount of $10,000 from Best Friends Animal Society, all council districts.
Thank you.
This resolution is sponsored by Memphis Animal Services. There is a request for same night minutes. Item number 13 is a resolution to accept grant funds in the amount of $571,527 from Shelby County Government through BJA FY23 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program. All council districts. This resolution is sponsored by Police Services. There is a request for same night minutes. And item number 14 is a resolution to allocate and appropriate $3,250,000 in city council community grant funds to nonprofit agencies for FY 2024. All council districts. This resolution is sponsored by the Budget Committee, and there is a request for same night minutes. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our fiscal consent agenda items.
Okay. Our fiscal consent agenda has been moved by Councilwoman Swearengin Washington, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. I do have one card. That's for item number 13, and that's from Pamela Moses.
Mr. Chairman, we don't allow.
Ms. Moses, name and address for the record, 2 minutes.
Pamela Moses, 2383 Jackson Avenue. Good afternoon, everyone. I have more so a question rather than a comment, and I will yield time for somebody to answer it. This is $571,000 of a grant that you're going to be accepting from, I think it's a federal agency, but it deals with federal dollars, and a lot of federal dollars come through the city of Memphis, but they never make it to our community. So this grant has something to do with, I think, a police officer in New York that was killed or something. But I want to know where is the breakdown or the application of this grant so I can see how much of the funding of this grant was requested on behalf of the community, since it's an assistant grant program. In case you didn't know, there was a 15-year-old murdered at youth villages, I think yesterday, by staff. So my concern is, since you requested same night minutes, meaning that this is going to be passed immediately, I want to know from the community perspective how many of these dollars are going to go to the community, who's going to manage this program, will it be done by the police department, will the community be able to access these funds? And that's really all I want to know about this. And can I get a copy of the application that was filed for this grant that you want to receive?
Okay, so Ms. Moses, I'll respond just by saying that whenever we're receiving money, that's what this is. It's on our fiscal consent agenda because we don't want to hesitate any type of money coming in. As far as the application itself, for that, you just have to file a FOIA request for that information.
Okay, and what about the community? Who's going to facilitate the grant?
This will be Memphis Police Services.
Okay, so is there going to be somebody from the community involved with this, the taxpayers?
Well, the taxpayers are represented by the council and in the administration. So I think that part of that grant application would answer your question as to what is the purpose of that money, because typically, as you know, with that grant application, it has to specify what the intended uses are.
Okay, I'll do the for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no other members in the queue, Councilwoman Johnson.
Mike.
Okay.
I withdrew, but I think her questions were important.
Okay.
You got by, so thank you.
Seeing no other members in the queue to speak on our fiscal consent agenda, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Council members, cast your vote for the fiscal consent agenda. Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 36? Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, due to some extenuating circumstances for one of our members, would you mind calling item number 26?
Okay. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item, excuse me, item 26?
And then, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind recognizing me after the item's been
Thank
called.
you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 26 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 5551 and Ordinance 5734 relative to smart city fiber access systems, establishing criteria for qualification as smart city fiber access systems, defining smart city fiber access systems, and authorizing for qualifying smart city fiber access systems alternative requirements, terms, conditions, limitations, and provisions for recovery of the city's cost incurred for the construction, maintenance, policing, management, or repair of the streets, alleys, thoroughfares, and rights of ways of the city, up for third and final reading. Ordinance number 5887 is sponsored by the administration.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you want to move it?
So this item has been moved by Councilman Carlisle, seconded by Vice Chair Smiley. We have councilpersons Carlisle, Logan, and Robinson in the queue. Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, colleagues, you are receiving a document that will serve as, and I will move to enter in substitute ordinance number 5887, an ordinance amending ordinance 551 and ordinance 5734 relative to smart city fiber access systems, et cetera, ending thoroughfares rights of way of the city. When we began this process, I made a comment that this body was always politically aligned to ensure that people had access to high-speed internet, and that we wanted to work through the details because that's where the devil lies. And so I want to, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, recognize the council's attorney, Alan Wade, to walk through the substitute ordinance and its pertinent points to ensure. But I'm very excited about the opportunity that's ahead for both this body, but more importantly, the city. And so I thank everybody that's been a part of the process as we've navigated a very complex subject matter. So, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you.
Council Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councilman Carlisle. This ordinance originated on October 10. If you recall, we had a meeting in committee. At that committee, the administration made a presentation. The administration's consultant made a presentation, and there were questions from an interested entity that may be the first applicant for a smart city access franchise, if you will. I don't think it's what it's called, but a right-of-way agreement. Then we had, at the request of another interested party, Comcast, on October 24th, we had a 1-hour presentation from them about their system and the advantages and the bells and whistles that they use and how well they have been performing and how well they have penetrated in our community. We also heard from a person, Mr. Rolls, who was a cable company advocate, that talked about the differences between coaxial fiber or coaxial hybrid fiber, as Comcast uses, and pure fiber. The ordinance went on first reading on October 24th, second reading on November 7th, third reading is tonight. So I go through that history just to outline to you that this ordinance has been before us for many weeks. You asked me to wrap my head around this complex subject, look at this ordinance, and try to determine, one, how it fit within our existing paradigm, which is Ordinance 5551, which was a master ordinance dealing with how you interface with our rights of way if you're a telecommunications company. Another ordinance after that set forth a fee structure, and then we've had one further ordinance dealing with engineering fees. So I met with the city's consultant, over the phone and personally. I met with one of the proposed applicants extensively and their attorney. I've had extensive conversations with Comcast's attorney, Mr. Robert Spence, who I respect immensely. And during this whole process, I have been digesting reports and studies and language and researching federal cable acts and state cable acts and doing what I do. And basically what I do is get deep into the weeds and try to take this ordinance and bring it within the confines of our existing ordinance structure. I have met with some of you individually, and I have met with some of you in attorney-client due to pending litigation that we have existing over our rights of way and what I expect may be litigation by some disappointed party if we pass this ordinance. And I have attempted to correct the ordinance that was originally presented to you, make it compliant with our existing structure, meet all of the city's requirements and needs, meet some of the needs that were expressed to me by this body. And what I have done is come up with an ordinance that is structurally complete, in my opinion, competitively neutral for anybody that wants to obtain a smart fiber right-of-way access agreement to compete on the same terms without discrimination. And that's what you have before you. And what I'd like to do is to highlight that I have not changed the structural integrity of this document. It is basically the same as you saw it. What I have done, however, is added a section which deals with the scope. And the scope is basically to say that, and it's consistent with our other ordinances, that we're setting forth a new classification for a smart fiber telecommunications company. And this is to ensure that we will have available high-speed broadband services to all, and I emphasize all, city neighborhoods. And it will specifically require that low-income residents and students have access to affordable high-speed broadband services from such systems. All right, so then I did not change many of the findings, but I did provide that there were some benefits to us that were not monetary, primarily that this will facilitate one, fiber for city uses, which will allow our city departments to use fiber in a way to deploy our limited resources in a more effective way for our citizens. It will also facilitate the ability of underserved neighborhoods, minority individuals to engage in what is now becoming prevalent online facility workforce development. And it will increase our elderly citizens and low-income residents who have to negotiate in new digital environments just to survive. So this was one of the intangible or indirect benefits of this ordinance. Now, the core benefit to a provider from engaging in this ordinance is that you will be relieved of the obligation to pay annual right-of-way fees. And under our prior ordinances, people that use our rights-of-way for telecommunication services have to pay underground fee of 75 cents per linear foot and 35 cents for aerial. Those fees under this ordinance as a condition or a trade-off, if you will, for you extending these services into lower income areas and providing the city with fiber for its uses, is that those fees will be waived. Presently, one of the interested party, Comcast, was exempted from those franchise fees when we adopted Ordinance 5551. The reason for that is because Comcast is a cable system. It provides cable services. And under federal law and under our state statutes, cable systems are exempt from right-of-way fees to the extent that they use them to provide cable and video services. Cable and video services are distinguishable, however, from broadband internet and telecommunications. Comcast uses the rights-of-way in their cable system not only to provide cable services, but to also provide broadband internet and also telecommunication services. And therein lies the problem, is that they believe that they are exempt from right-of-way fees when they are also using their system to provide non-cable and video services. That is an issue that we're going to have a serious discussion with them about, but that is irrelevant to what we are here for tonight. But the point is that they don't pay the right-of-way fees today. Therefore, there is no impediment or burden on them if they want to engage in this activity. But by the same token, there's no benefit to them either, because they don't pay the very thing that we're exempting these companies from. One other trade-off that we receive, and most of the ordinance is the same. I do call your attention to page 6. Page 6 in the prior ordinance had low-income premises, and it just referred to all premises located within census tracts that had income below the median household income in the city. You wanted to have more clarity and specificity about that item and to identify the census tracts, which are low-income census tracts, so that we can find out if we are providing services in those areas. And if you remember, I provided you with a map that shows you where they were. Those census tracts are primarily in District 7, District 6, District 4. Those are the areas that are underserved today. This ordinance will require anybody that wants to get this designation to provide at least to reach 60% of the households in that area. And I point that out because that's the minimum. Now, I understand that and we're not talking about any specific company tonight. We're talking about a master ordinance that applies to anybody that wants to apply. But you need to understand that that is an absolute requirement, that if you don't do this, you don't get the designation. One other thing that we provide to facilitate, because this is going to be a robust exercise and it's going to take some time, we allow our city engineer, who is very experienced in handling right-of-way issues, to tailor specific engineering programs to facilitate the deployment of these systems. But that doesn't mean we're going to relax any of our engineering standards. They're going to remain intact and be the same. He will be able to just devote specific teams dedicated to this purpose and have a fee structure that addresses that. The fees will not be compromised. They will be the same, but they will be targeted, they will be more efficiently deployed, and we will be able to roll this out in a way that we ultimately will reach those underserved neighborhoods in District 6, District 7, District 4, and District 3. Now, the only other change, well, one other change that you wanted before, when the administration presented this ordinance, it provided that the terms and conditions of any development contract would be approved by the chief administrative officer or the chief operating officer. That has been changed to provide that those development terms and the contract provisions will be approved by the chief administrative officer, but the material terms will be adopted by you. That means you have the approval of what the context of these agreements will be, and it won't be just the administration doing it. You wanted to be the one to say and ensure that these developments will go into minority communities and that these developers will do what they want. That is a significant change, and that has been added to this document at your request. And if you turn to page 10, this was one change that came from the council today, paragraph 3, and I'm going to read it because I want it to be emphasized, that the development commitment must include a commitment approved by the chief administrative officer to improve opportunities for broadband access by low-income residents. And then if you look, I have written into the document, and a commitment for minority participation at all major levels of the project. This means that people that want to invest in ownership, people that want to invest in deployment, people that want to be part of the construction, people that want to be part of the educational part of this thing that I'll discuss in a second, will be minorities. That is also a significant improvement. The 4 and 5 provide additional benefits to the city, and I want to discuss those because this is what we will receive. The city will receive at least 6,000 physical connection points at locations throughout the city. These connection points are points by which the city can tap into the fiber system for fire stations, for police stations, for libraries, for community centers. And the police department is probably going to roll out a system in the next fiscal year where they're going to have robust surveillance camera systems throughout the city. These connection points are vital to us being able to provide services to our city at a more efficient way. As you know, now, and I joke about this, you know, our staffing is low. Getting access to services is sometimes slow. And this way, we can interact with our citizens in a more effective way and deploy our services in a more effective way with a smaller workforce. And I dare say, I mean, it's no secret, we are looking for money. We don't have unlimited resources. And so to be able to work smarter is going to be a very significant part of our future. If the next thing is, so those 6,000 points mean that you have the fiber brought to you, but you have what's known as a drop for us to be able to use them. The next one is 5, where it says fiber optic systems must provide the city internet access to at least 100 locations at no cost to the city. What that means is that Brooks' computer can plug into the internet and be up and running right away without having to have drops or anything else. Those are valuable to us to have 100 of those locations. So these are the things that we get for waiving the right-of-way fees. Beyond that, everything else is technical with the exception of paragraph 7 on page 11. All right, this was included to address primarily Comcast. This section basically says that Comcast, you are not relieved of your obligation to pay franchise fees on cable services. Right now, they pay 5% of their gross revenue derived from cable and video services. That is not going away. That is not a right-of-way requirement. That is a franchise requirement. What Comcast will receive if they want to apply for a franchise or smart city designation, they will be relieved of right-of-way fees on their non-cable related services such as internet access and telecommunications. This places them on the same level, same playing field as anybody else. Without them paying those fees, they would be having an advantage by using their cable system to use for telecommunications and video, where someone like Zio or Level 3 have to pay right-of-way fees. They have not been paying them because they have been combining those services with their cable and video. But this places them, they get relieved of these fees the same way everyone else does. Everything else is pretty much as you have seen it for the past 4 weeks. No changes. Okay, let's go to page 18. This is a new change. This was also discussed, but it was not part of the ordinance. What you are doing here is creating a low-income access fund. The purpose of this fund is to provide a subsidy to allow providers to provide access to low-income communities. This is called a drop subsidy, meaning they will bring the fiber to the home, but you have to have a drop to be able to access the system. That costs money. This fund will help defray the cost of that. And it will be provided to providers on a first-come, first-served basis, meaning that it will not be dedicated to any particular provider, but every provider that provides these drops will be able to access this fund. It will also defray the internal cost to the city to provide outreach and educational programs either directly and or through third-party contractors to help eligible low-income and disadvantaged Memphians to access private, city, and federal broadband subsidy programs that would aid them in obtaining and maintaining a home broadband system. The city will seed this fund with $7 million. $3.5 million will be for drop subsidies and $3.5 million for outreach and educational subsidies. It will be administered as a separate, discrete fund, and it will be used only for these purposes. It will be eligible for other charitable organizations or other businesses to contribute to the fund to expand it, but it will be only administered until it is exhausted, and that is now part of the ordinance, where it was something that was just discussed by the administration. So this is also going to be a requirement. Other than that, you have the standard provisions for Tennessee law governing how it interacts with our existing right-of-way ordinances, the severability, and effective date clauses. I believe I have addressed everything that I've heard from you. I've addressed everything that I've heard from Meridian, one of the proposed applicants. I have had discussions with Comcast, and I have, tried to make this ordinance as competitively neutral as possible, and I believe that it is. I think Comcast's objection will be not as to the material terms of the ordinance, the structure, the neutrality, but it will be more against it will be anti-competition. That is not our role. We don't govern what happens in the marketplace. That's for them to compete with others and make their case and let the best man or woman win is the way I look at it. I believe that there's no basis for any delay for this ordinance to be adopted. The quicker we get it adopted, the quicker applicants can start. As I told Mr. Spence, there's nothing to prohibit Comcast from making an application to be part of this ordinance, and we welcome them. We do not disparage their ability or the quality of their system. That's not for us to judge. That's for someone else to judge. And if they have some problems, I think, we have to wait until they actually make an application and determine whether they want some variations or whatever they want. That's what I would suggest. So I would urge you to adopt it tonight without delay, and let's move on down the road with something else. I'll entertain any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. We have Councilwoman Robinson and Councilwoman Johnson in the queue. Councilwoman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had just two questions. I know our attorney Wade has done a phenomenal job of explaining all of this to us in 15 minutes. However, for the audience, is it possible, Mr. Chair, that if we could get 2 or 3 people who may have questions about the changes, only changes that were made, so that we can get some clarity?
I think that it would be prudent for the council to entertain and hear from the proponents of this as well as the opponents of this.
Yes.
So hopefully there's not any objection to doing so. This is a very important vote that we have to take, so I think it would be prudent for us to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. And while they're speaking, maybe they can address these 2 questions. Could you please tell me how much the drop box actually will cost? And will any opposition that may be here, will they be using a drop box? And will the cost of this fiber be more than what the average person is currently using with whatever resources? So will this be an increase in services fiber? Those are my questions.
Okay. So I have a comment card from Mr. Robert Spence.
I'm ready for it.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert Spence, 65 Union Avenue.
First, before you start, is there anybody else that is going to speak either in favor or in opposition to this? Like I said, I want to give the opponents an opportunity to speak on this as well as the opponents to speak on this. So we're not going to be here all night, but I just wanted to give everybody an equal opportunity to speak on this matter. Is that okay? Ms. Ryan, I don't have on my glass. So that'll be the administration. So if there's no other opponent to speak on this, we'll give Mr. Spence 5 minutes and then any opponent or any proponent, 5 minutes to speak on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert Spence, 65 Union Avenue, Suite 900. I rise in opposition to this ordinance. What I believe is prudent and appropriate is that this ordinance be delayed at least for 2 weeks. Mr. Wade is a very proficient lawyer. He's a very skilled lawyer. But we only got this on Saturday. Changes have been made today. This type of complex legislation should not be passed without an opportunity for you to read it, understand it, digest it, debate with opponents, proponents, so that when you pass legislation, you do so knowing full well what it is intended to do and the potential unintended consequences. With regard to this legislation, there are some very serious unintended potential consequences. 25 years ago, when I was roaming these halls, Alan and I fought telecommunications companies because we believed it was in the city's best interest to be able to charge a percentage of revenue for the use of our right-of-ways. We won that. We won that fight. And for the last 25 years, this city has enjoyed the fruits of that labor by receiving on an annual basis a percentage of that revenue without regard to right-of-way fees. And I will remind those of you who don't know is that it was the telecommunications companies who wanted to be charged based on right-of-ways and linear feet. We defeated that. This legislation resurrects it. It resurrects what we spent so many hours defeating. One of the charges to this government and to any government that wades into this area is that it passed legislation that is fair and equitable. Fair and equitable. This legislation states that the benefit to any applicant who applies is based on the waiver of right-of-way fees. We don't pay right-of-way fees. My client doesn't pay right-of-way fees, and you don't want my client to pay right-of-way fees. So what is the incentive being offered by this government to my client such that this legislation is fair and equitable? What is the incentive? It is currently not in this legislation. It is not there, and because it is not there, in my humble opinion, which I've expressed to my good friend Alan Wade, it violates both federal and state law. It violates both federal and state law. My client does not seek any competitive advantage. My client has been educated about the benefits of this legislation on our community. And we want to participate. But we also want to be treated fairly and impartially as every other competitor is treated. So that's the reason we've asked for a delay. I am glad to work with Attorney Wade for 2 more weeks. I'm glad to try to drill down and develop an incentive for my client such that this legislation is fair and equitable. But we can't do it tonight. It isn't in the current version. And to the extent the current version is passed, I believe it violates federal and state law, which is why we have asked humbly that this be passed for 2 weeks.
Mr. Spence, I think we may have council members that may have questions of you. So I have Councilman Carlisle, Vice Chair Smiley, and Councilwoman Johnson in the queue. Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Spence, your reputation precedes you as outstanding litigator and transactional attorney. With all due respect, it sounds slightly as if, and I'm going to use the word threat, I'm sure there's a softer term, that if this body doesn't acquiesce, that we're headed for litigation. Because if your position is that we are in violation of state law, I'm going to assume that your client is going to have you zealously advocate for them, which means that we're adverse to each other.
Well, Councilman Carl, I have not been retained to file litigation. I've only been retained to try to convince this wise body of the error of its way in passing this legislation tonight.
Yes, sir. I guess I would just ask our attorney, and I think you make some valid points. It's fair. People have scheduling issues, changes. I know ongoing negotiations. I guess I would just ask our attorney if our attorney felt, as an expert in the subject matter and our lead negotiator, so to speak, and the council's advisor, if there's anything else left to discuss, or if you feel like you have made all the recommendations to this body you're prepared to make.
You know, all I can say is that they don't pay right-of-way fees. And I don't know how that can be accommodated in this paradigm without destroying it completely.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
They do not pay right-of-way fees. The reason that they don't, and this, I mean, maybe we'll have to have a conversation on Adams Street about it, is because we believe they should have been, but they haven't been. And if they want to come up with a paradigm that says that they want an incentive other than waiver of right-of-way fees, that cannot be accommodated in this ordinance without destroying the whole structure.
Thank you, Mr. Spence. Thank you, Attorney Wade. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilman Carlisle. Vice Chair Smiley.
Yeah, I'm not. So I always enjoy very capable lawyers going back and forth. You know, I always like a good argument. I don't think my question is for Mr. Spence. I think my question is more so directed to the folks at, I'm going to butcher the name, Meridian. I think my question is, I think what Attorney Spence is requesting is a 2-week hold so he can have time to review the legislation. And I can hear Councilwoman Johnson in my ear saying, I need time to read this. So that's, assuming that's always Councilwoman Johnson's default position, I could be mistaken this time. I would love to hear someone speak to what happens if a 2-week hold is entertained by the council. I don't know what the position of this body is as it relates to a 2-week hold, but I would love to hear someone respond to what happens if a 2-week hold takes place.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shandell Ryan, Chief Operations Officer for the city. I too have a huge respect for Mr. Spence. As a fellow lawyer, I do have that respect for him. I do want to say that we have been talking about this for 6 weeks. And we've had a lot of conversation about how this is going to benefit the citizens of Memphis, and that's part of what I would love for us to focus on. We understood how the digital divide impacted the citizens of Memphis over the pandemic, and it's still something that exists today. That's why this is so important to us and to this administration. To answer the question, we do not want to delay because the cost of construction and the plans of moving forward are right here we're right here at the place where we can start that type of construction and really get the services to the citizens of Memphis that's needed. Any additional delay will impact our ability to move forward with the assets that we have that are ready to move forward with the construction of this type of network. So I am asking that we not do a delay again. We've been talking about this for 6 weeks. I feel like we have all of the facts that we need in order to make an informed decision, and I invite any additional questions from the council.
Okay, so I've asked, and I was looking through the agenda, and what I was trying to figure out, so this particular item does not have a request for same 9 minutes. So what that means for the general public and for the new council members who are here, since it does not have a request for same 9 minutes, it is not officially approved by this body until we approve the minutes. We don't approve the meeting minutes until the next council meeting. That's in 2 weeks. So what could transpire, since there is no request for same 9 minutes, but I still want to hear from other colleagues. But what could transpire, I just want to hear y'all talk, we could technically hold this item, put a request for same 9 minutes on it, and it still be approved on the same day it would be approved as if we pass it right now in the regular course of business. So Councilman Carlisle understands what I mean. All roads lead to the same place, assuming we would put it on the agenda in 2 weeks for same 9 minutes, because we still come back here in 2 weeks for final approval. So I'm not making a motion, but I want people to understand where we are now. Attorney Spence requests that we hold for 2 weeks. Meridian says, let's go. Are we ready to do work for the people of Memphis? But no matter what, we're going to come back here in 2 weeks and we're going to have to take a vote, whether we're voting on the meeting minutes of the last meeting or that we approve it on December the 5th with same 9 minutes. We still come back here on December the 5th and we will have to take a vote. So just want to hear people talk because I'm trying to figure it out. So somebody make a good argument.
Okay. Before we recognize Councilwoman Johnson, I think that Council Wade wants to make a comment.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to, I think maybe something got overlooked.
Okay.
Comcast has not made an application. Meridian has. You adopt this ordinance, Comcast, if they have a proposal that they want to present a different paradigm of how they want to benefit from a smart fiber designation, they can still do that through making an application under the ordinance after you adopt it. Then it will come back to you and you can then determine whether you want to grant those benefits to them. So that's kind of, I think, to start Mickey Mousing around with the ordinance is not the issue. The ordinance gives every applicant the ability to present their unique proposal and for you to determine whether you want to accept it. I just want to make sure you understand that's how it works.
Councilwoman Johnson.
After I heard Mr. Spence, I'm really confused. Ever since we've been here, well, that's good. He did a good job. Ever since I've been here, it's always about we don't want to do anything that may cause a legal reaction that we did not want to be able to support later. And he has brought up the issue about state and what was it, state and federal laws. Now, you didn't go into details and say which ones we're in violation of, nor have I heard Attorney Wade to say that's not true. And he's quick to say that's not true. He says it's not true. Okay. He said he know him. He says it's not true, so I don't know which one is bluffing now, you know? That's what the courts are going to decide. Yeah, you know, but if we really have a serious issue, we need to know how far into it we need to go. I've asked somebody to tell me the cost of these drop boxes.
Shandell Ryan again. So the cost of the boxes are about $500 each. That would be the cost of them.
So we're going to give out 500 divided into 3,500,000? Huh? Okay, how many boxes are you going to provide to the citizens?
The 3.5
That's what I was saying,
so if I were-
divided by 500.
Whatever
Okay, but
we
then I
reach the
thought he
3.5
said half of the boxes.
That is the cost of half, about 500.
Okay, again, what's the cost? What would be the cost for this service for the average person?
The person would not pay for the drop.
No, I mean, some people gonna have to pay for the drop.
The person would not pay, no ma'am.
Nobody would pay for a drop.
No,
Not the individual.
The drop is, correct me if I'm wrong, the drop is part of the equipment for the provider. It doesn't go in folks' homes. It's that box that's like right there at the end of their
From the
driveway.
street
Yes.
to the residence.
Okay.
So, I don't know
more
if your
than-
neighborhood has AT&T putting those boxes in the ground.
Some of them.
So that's the equivalent of that. So the
Okay.
residents don't, because the consumer doesn't pay for that.
So you're telling me that this 3.5 million that's being allotted will be enough to cover the entire city for drop boxes?
That will help to support the cost, but ultimately, the resident will not pay the cost for a drop from the street to the home. It's all gonna be, as a part of this conversation, it will not be borne by the resident.
Okay, Alvin needs to help again.
Okay, so this money helps defray the cost up to 3.5. Under Meridian's proposal, after that, they will pay.
Then the average resident,
Not Comcast, that.
I'm not talking about, yeah, this is all they that we're talking about. So after you install the 3.5 million number, then that company, Meridian, will then provide the drop boxes for everybody.
100%, yes, ma'am.
What, so it's not a charge for that? Okay, that'll work.
Correct.
Now, the next question that came up, what areas will first receive the fiber optics? You know, we talked about that before. Okay, I didn't see that. Uh-huh.
In this substitute ordinance, there are specific census tracts that are listed.
I know, he mentioned that, he
Yeah.
came in and told, but my question is, will they be the first one to receive it? That was my question, who's gonna receive it first?
No, ma'am, they will not. The internet starts from the
Central location, you told me that before, I remember
where
now.
the donut hole is. That's where our friends across the street want to move to. But that's because that's where the internet comes into the city, and it originates out of that. They will build out from there and add residences from that location.
Okay, I have one other question. Once the fiber optics is laid supposedly by Meridian, will it be a requirement that the citizen connect to it, or they can keep what they already have?
This is a service that they would be able to opt into. There is no, we are not communists, as they say in The Godfather. We can't make people subscribe to our system.
Well,
they can keep whatever they want. And if they love Comcast, they can keep Comcast.
Okay, and I want to make sure they know that they're not being forced into anything as an option for them. So in actuality, this is one other question. We may have 3 sets of lines in the ground, one from Meridian, one from Comcast, and one from AT&T, and one from whoever. Is that what you're telling me as far as
More than
fiber
that.
optic?
Yes, this enables lots of people.
Okay.
My house has 3 right now. I've got broadband, old fiber from AT&T, their older version 2016 fiber, and their new fiber all run through my backyard to termination points in my house.
But Canally doesn't.
I'm not in the right neighborhood, not there with me.
Right.
My internet always goes out. But regardless, I think the request for additional time is not unreasonable. And I would support giving them the information, the time to get it done so the general public and everybody understands what's going on. So that's all I have to say at this point. Thank you. Oh, I have one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
We're working on an ordinance that would provide an opportunity. But yet I hear that some people have already submitted an application for an ordinance that does not exist. Am I hearing this right?
They have been in negotiations. They will have to submit an application like everyone else.
Okay.
And we will get the development terms, the material terms, and you will approve them. That has to be done. That's what's going to be delayed. You may delay the enactment of this ordinance, but you're delaying steps down the road that
has to take place.
I mean, and I don't know what could
But I mean, you
possibly
said that
change.
they had made application, then you made the comment that they have, this other group has not made an application. That's why I said, what about this application process? Am I confused?
No, you're not. They have been in discussions, and Comcast hadn't been prevented from being in discussions either. But until you pass the ordinance, nobody can submit an application. That's what's going to be delayed. So that's why you need to move on. And if Comcast wants to submit an application, they can do so, and we can negotiate all these novel benefits that they want to give us in that application.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
You good? Okay. Councilman Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been listening to this, I think, in committee and today, and it looks to me like we're the victims of a delaying tactic, that there's nothing that we're going to do to this ordinance that's going to make Comcast happy. And I guess the question is, have we written an ordinance that's going to make it where our poorest people in the city can have access to broadband, and anybody else who wants to put broadband in can put it in such a way? That's all it is. It's broadband, right? Broadband fiber. So, so the thing is, we can be Chattanooga, and we can empower everyone, and we can move on with it, or we can sit here and delay it and wait, and then there'll be something else next week, and there'll be something else next week. I am very impressed with the lawyers that have talked. They were very persuasive. But I think the big picture is we need this for our city, and we should vote for it. And if there's something really horrible that comes up that we need to change, we've got minutes next week, and we can pull it, and we can change it and do it then. So I would like to call the question because I need to go to the hospital and see a patient. But if anybody else wants to talk after me, let me know.
Yeah, there are other council members in the queue.
If they would like to give up, I'd love for them to.
I will cut my comments to echo Councilman Warren that to make a very complicated issue simple, I think we have an ordinance in front of us that is in the best interest of the citizens of Memphis from the bottom to the top, and that it is a pathway forward for ISPs to participate in providing cable fiber throughout the city. And if Comcast wants to, submit an application and be a part of providing fiber throughout the city of Memphis, low-income neighborhoods, then bring it on. And if they want to file a lawsuit against us and fight and kick and scream about incentives that they have already, that they're afraid that competitors will also be offered, then bring that on as well. And hopefully we can dispense with the lawsuit as quickly as possible and get this infrastructure in the ground. But today, getting it in the ground and moving forward starts with us. Because of the complexity of the issue, at no point will everyone understand everything. But I think we can get to a point of comfort and consensus with both the advice from the administration, from experts, from our own legal counsel, that this is in a good place now. And if there are adjustments that need to be made, there are mechanisms for that as well. But let's go ahead and get started, start receiving applications, and get the fiber in the ground. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Morgan. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to move that we delay this for 2 weeks. Can I get a second on that motion? I'd like to.
Point of order, a motion's already been made, call the question.
When was the call for question I missed?
I did recognize those members in the queue.
You did, but I had the right to make that motion first, right?
You do.
I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
So
I definitely did
before I
hear it.
recognize that, I have a question of Mr. Spence. Mr. Spence, so it was your opinion that this ordinance as presented is, or it should be fair and equitable?
Yes.
Okay, can you provide us, and you said you've had it since Saturday, we're just getting it today. Can you provide us what terms in here make it unfair and not equitable?
Sure. I'll use the example that I think Councilman Johnson sort of brought to the forefront about if you had a Meridian line outside a house, you had an AT&T line outside a house, you had a Comcast line outside the house. The problem is that the Meridian line will be put there with your incentives. The Comcast line will be there without incentives. That's what makes it unfair. You are providing an incentive to a select provider. This ordinance has to be drafted where it incentivizes anyone who wants to participate. That's the problem with it. I don't suggest to you that it is an easy problem to solve. But that's our job. We solve problems. We recognize it has this problem. We know it has this problem now. All we're asking is an opportunity to work with Mr. Wade to try to solve this problem on the front end.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spence. Well, the first motion on the floor was to call the question, so that was made.
Was it second?
Well, calling for a question doesn't need a second.
Can I object to the question?
Well, you can't, so we can call the question, we just have to vote on it. So if the question has been called, so we need to vote on this one. If we don't get the votes on this, then
it
fails. Yeah. No. So, no. The vote is not to call the question. The vote is to vote this up or down.
Right.
That's what calling the question is.
If we vote no, that means continue discussion.
No.
So we vote no. Point of information. If we vote no to calling the question, does that mean that this body continued the conversation?
No.
What happens?
That means that this fails.
This is up or down. So, Mr. Chair, may I?
We have never used call the question right since I've been here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So typically in Robert's rules, calling the question actually ceases debate immediately.
Right.
This body extends a courtesy to its members for comments. So in any ordinary business, it would have just ended it.
Mm-hmm.
So Chairman Jones, again, has extended a courtesy. So now the question has been called. It's voting it up or down. I will remind members to Vice Chairman Smiley's point.
You've never used it.
You should, if, thank you. Since the question has been called and the maker of that motion is not going to withdraw it, I highly recommend you vote yes. We will not ratify this with same night minutes. And if any changes need to be made between now and the next meeting, this ordinance can be pulled off the minutes and those changes can be implemented. I would highly recommend, Dr. Warren's made it clear, if he's not going to withdraw it, that we pass this ordinance and that any changes that Mr. Spence, Mr. Wade, or other parties need to make, we can do it in the ordinary course of business. Thank you.
Let me remind my colleagues, we just did that this evening with the tow ordinance. So if we have any issues with this after we pass it, even if there isn't a hole, there can be changes that can be made. We can pull it and we can adopt it as amended. So that's what we did earlier today. If there are some issues with it, we can follow that same course next week.
That's what I asked.
So seeing no other members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screens? No, I'll get it the next time. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvette, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Please show Vice Chairman Smiley as voting yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, I'm sorry, Councilman Canale.
Nope, other one.
Oh, Councilman Carlisle, I'm sitting up here.
He's got his
looking at the
beard now, so
Yeah.
he's starting
Yeah.
to come along. By the way,
Councilman Carlisle.
you've caught up to me at within a month. It's unbelievable. Mr. Chairman, based on extenuating circumstances and having a member leave the body on a significant referendum ordinance and discussion, I move that we hold items 27 and 28 to our next available meeting on December 5th.
Okay, is there any objection to holding items 27 and 28? So since there's no objection, 27 and 28 will be held until our next meeting, December 5th. Yes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 36?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 36 is a resolution to provide $20 million in cash flow to Memphis Area Transit Authority, MATA, until federal transit funds are distributed. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by the administration, and there may be a request for same-night minutes. There is a request for same-night minutes.
Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Okay, that item has been moved by Councilman Carlisle, seconded by Councilwoman Easter Thomas. Seeing no speakers in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Of course I am.
Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 40?
Item number 40 is a resolution to grant $1 million to Alliance Healthcare Services for Behavioral Health Crisis Center. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by the administration.
Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Okay, that item has been moved by Councilwoman Robinson, seconded by Councilman Morgan. Seeing no members in the queue.
I was in the queue. Earlier, we extended the opportunity that people were not available. If you'd like to co-sponsor this resolution, please add yourself. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, I'd like to be added.
So if there is anybody who does not want to be listed as a co-sponsor of this, please indicate such. Okay, so that's been moved by all council members.
Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 30?
Item number 30 is a resolution to accept, allocate, and appropriate port security grant program funds from the Department of Homeland Security Operations Safety in the amount of $526,580 to be used to replace Class B firefighting foam. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by the administration.
Councilwoman Logan.
Thank you, Chair. The committee may recommend approval, and I so move.
That item has been moved by Councilwoman Logan, seconded by Councilwoman Swearingen Washington. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Oh, snap.
Go ahead and vote.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 32? Oh, I'm sorry, item number 31.
Item number 31 is a resolution to accept supplemental grant funding in the amount of $158,477 from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, for the annual sustainment of Tennessee Task Force 1, all council districts. This resolution is sponsored by the administration.
Councilwoman Logan.
The committee may recommend approval, and I so move. I moved earlier
Okay.
electronically.
Item number 31 has been moved by Councilwoman Robinson, seconded by Councilwoman Swearingen Washington. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 32?
Item number 32 is a resolution authorizing the council to hold a public hearing at which it will convene as a rate-making board to consider the application of the MLGW Board of Commissioners for rate increases and changes to the present electric rate tariffs. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by the MLGW administration.
Thank you. Councilwoman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a notification to the public that we will have our rate-making board. It will meet at our next meeting, December 5th, 2023, and on that agenda.
Okay. And will you move that? So that item has been moved
It
by
has been
Councilwoman
moved.
Robinson, seconded by Councilman Canali. I do have comment cards, but what this is just the announcement. This is not
Yes.
the actual
Yes.
process of us talking about that rate increase.
Mm-hmm.
So are you speaking?
For a rate increase, and I want to talk about it right now.
But this is just talking about, this is just the announcement of the public
That's
hearing.
fine. I want to talk about it.
Well,
I pulled a comment card for it.
but what I'm saying is that if you're going to talk about the rate increase, that's not on the agenda. This is just the announcement that at the next meeting, the rate increase will be on the
I'll
agenda.
pull one for the end of the meeting, but
Okay.
you've given no time to the community in committee and given hours of pitch time to MLG&W.
So, but the point, Mr. Kent, is that you will have that opportunity to do that at the next meeting. And that goes for Mr. Shumpert and Dr. Bauer. It'll be at the next meeting that we actually have the discussion about the rate increase. This is just setting the time for the public comment. But thank you for your card. Right. So we hadn't convened that. Madam Comptroller, will you please call, okay, so colleagues, we have the voting screen right in front of us.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 33?
Item number 33 is a resolution approving an asset purchase agreement for the acquisition of 600 MHX license issued by the Federal Communications Commission to Blue Water Wireless LP with FCC call sign WRBB 764 covering the counties of Shelby, Tennessee, Tipton, Tennessee, and Crittenden, Arkansas, in the amount of $27 million. All council districts. This resolution is sponsored by MLGW administration.
Thank you. Councilwoman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on this item to approve the asset purchase agreement for acquisition of the 600 megahertz license. However, it has been withdrawn by the staff. Yeah, yes, it is. I know it. I'm playing with.
I think that's the first time I've heard.
You've been punked, Doug. Cameras are right behind you.
I think that's the first time I heard President McGowan raise his voice.
Cameras right behind
you.
you.
Can we make note of that?
Smiling.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee met. We heard this presentation, and we are bringing this to the council with a recommendation that we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That item has been moved by Councilwoman Robinson, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. I have a comment card from Mr. Joe Kemp. Mr. Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, if there's a motion for call the question or previous question per Robert's Rules of Order, if there's an objection, you have to vote on it. Just want to let you know. Yes, you have to. It's Robert's Rules of Order. You can't just call the question. You have a motion on the floor, call the question and then debate. You can't do that. It's ridiculous. It's just ways in which they dumb down everybody and have everybody believe just these crazy rules that don't exist. It's just elitist. You are in effect considering funding MLG&W into 3 new areas of business to include owned telecommunications, paving, and power generation. This is totally unnecessary. As it relates to this rare opportunity and $27 million of PTLE spectrum purchase from a financial perspective, this purchase only serves the investor, much like the lump sum fake loan, $20 million for private garages. You see the pattern? The $27 million is an entry into the telecommunication business, does not serve ratepayers today. Only the investors from the Spectrum is being the investors from Spectrum. Why? Because appropriate communication can be leased for 20 years per MLGW FOI response at $8.1 million. If this were your money, you would lease at $8.1 million and put the remaining $19 million to work for the benefit of your household. That's what you would do. At 3% discount rate, 19 million becomes 34 million, and at 5% it becomes 50 million over 20 years. But this is not your money, this is ratepayer money. So you're gonna treat it differently. The $27 million purchase only serves the investor and not ratepayers today for the foreseeable future. Please reject this proposal. And they can lease it for $500,000 a year. Thank you.
Seeing no other council members to speak on this item? Yes.
May we have same night minutes, please?
Okay. Is there any objection to there being same night minutes on this item? Okay. So, Madam Comptroller, a motion has been made and seconded on this item, but with a request for same night minutes. Will you please prepare the voting screen?
Thank you.
Okay.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colbert, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 34?
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to do the MLGW fiscal consent before we go there?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Comptroller, will you please call the MLG&W fiscal consent agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That will take us to item number 15, a resolution approving change number 9 to to contract number 10927, perpetual licensing agreement with Precisely Software Incorporated to change and increase the contract value in the funded amount of $100,000. Item number 16 is a resolution approving change number 3 to contract number 12244, Smart Sheet with Smart Sheet Incorporated in the funded amount of $720,677.63. Item number 17 is a resolution approving change number 11 to contract number 10741, Laser Disc Document Storage with Jack Henry and Associates Incorporated, a division of Profit Stars, to increase the contract value in the funded amount of $13,956.35. Item number 18 is a resolution approving change number 3 to contract number 12295, Oracle Maintenance and Support with Mythics Incorporated, to ratify a payment authorization and change the current contract in the funded amount of $668,284.96. Item number 19 is a resolution approving change number 10 to contract number 11296, Enterprise GIS Software Selection and Installation with Environmental System Research Institute to expand the scope and increase the current contract in the funded amount of $616,000. Item number 20 is a resolution approving change number 1 to contract number 12180, Engineering Services for Water Engineering with HDR Engineering Incorporated, to renew the current contract in the funded amount of $650,000. Item number 21 is a resolution approving change number 3 to contract number 12343, Chemical Containment and Tank Installation at Water Pumping Stations with Chris Hill Construction Company, LLC, to ratify, expand the scope, and increase the current contract value in the amount of $145,820. Item number 22 is a resolution approving change number 1 to contract number 12190, Professional Engineering Services for Gas Engineering and Operations with Chai Engineering in the funded amount of $100,000. Item number 23 is a resolution awarding contract number 12424, Water Production Well Drilling to National Water Services, LLC, in the funded amount of $7,130,300.90. Item number 24 is a resolution to approve renewal of cooperative agreement number 5447, investigation of water resources for a period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2025, stipulating that a sum of $689,000 will be furnished by the division and a sum of $174,000 will be furnished by the United States Department of Interior Geological Survey for continuation of the groundwater data collection program in the Memphis area. And our final item is number 25, resolution approving change number 21 to contract number 11292, cashiering system replacement with System Innovators in the funded amount of $87,303.17. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our MLGW fiscal consent agenda items.
Thank you. Our MLG and W fiscal consent agenda has been moved by Councilwoman Robinson, seconded by Councilman Covette. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colbert, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 34?
Item number 34 is selection of the 2024 Council Chair.
Councilman Canali.
Mr. Chairman, I move to open nominations.
Thank you.
Can I make a nomination?
Yes, Councilman Canal.
I'd like to nominate Vice Chairman J.B. Smiley to be the chairman next year for 2024.
Move to close nominations and accept by acclamation.
Okay.
Seconded.
No objection. We have our new chairman for the 2024 year, Mr. J.B. Smiley. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 35?
Item number 35 is selection of the 2024 Council Vice Chair.
Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to open the floor for nominations.
Okay, the floor is open for nominations for Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I move to nominate Councilman Ford Canale for Vice Chair.
I move to close nominations and accept by acclamation.
Okay, so is there any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, the floor is closed. And Mr. Canale, seeing that there are no other opponents, we congratulate you on being the Vice Chair for 2025 for the Memphis City Council. Councilwoman Robinson.
I didn't need to press that.
Oh, okay.
She was like, why you call us over?
That brings us to our same night minute items. Vice Chair, will you please read our same night minute items into the record?
Absolutely.
33.
Absolutely. The same night minute items are number 4, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 23, 36, and 40. And I'm
33.
And 33. And with that, I so move.
Okay. Same night minutes have been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the voting screen?
You guys are pretty excited. JD, so much paperwork. Oh.
Hey.
Canale, yes.
That's what she's here.
Here are the votes for the same night minutes. Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Swearingen Washington, yes. And Chairman Jones, yes.
Okay, that item passes.
Show Councilwoman Logan is voting yes for the same night minutes, please. And Johnson.
Thank you. So that brings us to our comment cards. We have 4, 5, 6. 6 comment cards. Our first comment card is from Sharon Morning.
Hello, my name is Sharon Morning, and I came to speak on the race for the elected mayor. Number one, I feel like that is a slap in our citizens' faces because he has not yet done anything. He ran for mayor under what the salary was, and he needs to remain there until he proves to the citizens that he can get crime under control and that he can take on the task of being the mayor. Is he someone I voted for? No. Because number one, there's too many things left open, like my case, being sexually harassed at downtown Memphis, commissioner, he did nothing. He gave us a 50-cent raise, but yet he won a $3,000 raise. That's not accepted by the people, and we don't want it. And we feel like it's a slap in all of our faces. He did not complete a lot of things with the city, downtown Memphis. And until he come and show us that he's worthy of being the mayor of this city and can do his job sufficiently, he needs to accept what the same mayor currently have. We're not getting a raise, but MLG and W is going up, everything going up for us. But we're not getting a raise. But you want to oppose something for someone who have not done nothing. That's a slap in our face. And how long will you keep slapping us? Is it because no one show up here? But we elected y'all to take care of us. And you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of these politicians. It's a shame. And we're sick of it. And another thing, you open up, were giving us rules and instruction, but yet you failed to follow them. It was a question and it should have went to the vote. But you allow people to speak over their time, but when it comes to us, we got to stop, or you want to put the police on us. That's a slap in our face, and you deserve to be gone, Martavius. And I hope the next person takes your...
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Morning.
Hold up,
Miss Morning.
Come on.
Miss Morning.
Wait a minute.
Mr. Young. Okay. Our next comment card is from Dr. Ray Bauer.
When they black and when they somebody else, you don't care.
Miss Moses, no more outbursts. Miss Young. Ms. Bauer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Ray Bauer, 2000 North Parkway, co-founder of the MLGW advocacy group, 21st Century Memphis or Bust. This morning, we heard President McGowan say, quote, "The 2020 Way Forward funding was a necessary first step to regular recurring infrastructure replacement that will improve and maintain reliability over time," unquote. However, no breakdown was provided as to where specifically the money from the 7.2% electric, 27% water, and 2% gas increases from 2020/2022 have gone. If MLGW was provided $1.2 billion in cash and bonds in 2020, with $800 million of that earmarked for electric upgrades, where specifically did that money go? President McGowan said we have twice as many outages now as we did then. Will we be provided with that information before the council votes on whether to increase our rates again? There was discussion this morning of how much money in food spoilage a customer suffers per outage versus only a $5 to $20 monthly increase if the 12% electric rate hike is implemented. But since we haven't been provided specifics as to where the previous rate hikes went, there is no guarantee that ratepayers will not end up spending more on services per month, but still have to throw out food due to outages. Likewise, if MLGW was barely getting by and unable to make improvements, as was suggested this morning, would someone please ask, how can they justify the number of top employees there earning more than what the city mayor makes? We have a top-heavy utility company, even though our service has deteriorated. If we have the money to pay six-figure salaries, then we should have had the money to maintain infrastructure too, right? The last time City Council approved rate increases, they looked at streamlining MLGW. Unfortunately, it was customer-facing positions that were cut. Has anyone looked at streamlining the upper end? How much money would that save the ratepayer? Should we be looking at downsizing upper management to provide better service and oversight following the "too many cooks spoil the broth" saying? If you have the money to maintain all of those salaries, even on top of poor performance, maybe residential ratepayers do not need to bear the burden of another substantial rate increase.
Ms. Bauer.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next comment card is from Mr. Shumpert, John Shumpert.
On her. I want a copy of that.
Ms. Bauer.
Good evening. John Shumpert, 2356 Hawkhurst Street. Just wanted to kind of double down on what Dr. Bauer was saying about the rate increase. It is important that we do know where the $800 million in cash and bonds they've already received for infrastructure has gone. We still are asking for an independent audit to figure out, make sure those contracts are competitive and that the funds are being used efficiently. I personally hate when I have inefficient use of my own funds, but not as much as I hate of somebody else inefficiently using my funds. Also, the estimated bills is still an issue. People are still trying to figure that out. I can produce for any of you who may ask several people who've gotten bills that they don't know why they were being charged what they're charged. And our city especially, people cannot afford to not know where their money is going or why they're being charged what they're being charged. We're asking that we can make sure that MLGW has guarantees in place to make sure that no longer happens before an increase is voted on top of what people are already paying. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shumpert. Mr. Joe Kent.
Joe Kent, 5111 Flamingo. Motion, second, call the question. Okay, it's time to vote. Whatever. On October 18th, MLGW Commissioner Mitch Graves said that MLGW capital budget is never, ever, ever fully spent. And based on history, this FY24 budget is not reality. This comes after, to this council's face, MLGW said they would get it done, and yet are again behind on their capital spend while asking for a rate increase. MLGW did not get it done. To your face, Chief Doug McGowan promised parking on the cobblestones, and it is now a dump and a $10 million ripoff. McGowan did not get it done. To your face, on July 21st, 2023, MLGW CEO Doug McGowan repeatedly assures the council that MLGW has the money from under execution to fund the $228 million tree trimming contract without a rate increase. Then, on the record on November 7th, 2023, to your face, McGowan leads in large part with tree trimming as a primary driver of the 12% rate increase. All on the record. McGowan also states MLGW's industry peers have seen 60 or 70% increases in tree trimming costs, but presents this council to your face with a 128% increase. This is like somebody saying, "How much I charge $50 to cut your grass, but I'm going to charge you $100." Peer benchmarking shows peer increases at the very most at indeed a hefty but believable 20%, not 60, 70, or 128 increase for tree trimming. And further, we have the entry into the power generation business, paving and telecommunications, coupled with customer service outsource, making up a $100 million FY24 budget overage, $100 million. The customer service outsource comes with MLGW making zero effort to educate the public on reporting outages online. Say no to this rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. Yes, Councilwoman Johnson. Yes.
I have a question, but it's really for Doug McGowan since he's still here. Can I ask at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Beg your pardon? What did you say? Can you get, I got a question for you.
He wanted you to use all the time that you need to ask him all the questions that are on your mind. So just settle in and ask your questions.
Oh, okay.
So make sure you get them right. And if you have to ask the same question twice, he's okay with that.
Okay, cool. This is just one I've been up here thinking and listening, Doug. We had all those little disastrous windstorms and all that to come through the city. Is it not true that Memphis Light, Gas, and Water / City applies for federal relief in those situations?
Yes, ma'am, for 80% reimbursement.
Okay. Will that take you as far as purchasing transformers and everything you need to replace the system?
No, ma'am. That only pays for external linemen that we bring in under contract and external tree trimmers that we bring in. And it will also pay for any necessary replacement materials, up to 80% of what we have to purchase to replace.
Okay, so if a transformer goes out, that's a replacement, correct?
If it goes out because of, you're saying if it goes out because of a federally declared storm?
Yeah.
Yes, then that transformer gets replaced.
So my question is, what type of improvements were made based on the federal funding that you received the last couple of years? If you don't have to answer it now, go back and find out.
Well, let me just give you a broad. The storms that came through did significant damage to our system.
Right.
They did damage to the system that was visible and that was repaired.
Okay.
MLGW paid 100% of the money to repair all of that. The federal government, if it's a declared disaster, will reimburse us with 80%.
Okay.
But it's only for the areas that were damaged.
Okay, so
there is, I understand what you're saying. Yes, like If there was 11 poles down, I have 11 new poles. 11 new poles out of 130,000. If there was 15 transformers, that's 15 transformers out of close to 100,000 transformers. So it's not making us, the storms are not making a substantial increase in our ability to be more reliable because we put new stuff in. But what they have done is cause other damage that did not cause an outage that has yet to be detected. So our teams are out still assessing from the storms to find undetected damage.
So when you come back, is it possible to say how much money you actually received from the federal government in the last 2 years and what type of improvements were made with that money or were reimbursed for?
I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if your mic's on, but yes, I can.
Excuse me, everybody. We still have a meeting going on, so if you could keep your comments down.
I can tell you how much money we received.
Okay.
I don't want to suggest that they're improvements. They're replacements of infrastructure that was on the ground.
Okay, I just would like to know what was out there. You replace, I'm just trying to imagine it.
Like 500 poles.
Okay, 500 poles. That's quite a few.
One of the storms. We'll get some
that's
numbers
quite
like
a few compared to how we got to purchase 700 and we claim it. So on your report, are you claiming those 500? No. Okay, that's what I want to know, the difference.
But now, Ms. McGowan, one clarifying question here. Does it not have to be a declared disaster? So a regular storm, we don't get any money for.
These were.
Right, but still.
I'm only talking about the ones he just said, yes. We were reimbursed.
Right, but we still got to spend $100. We only get $80 back.
20%.
So, but that's 20% that probably wasn't budgeted for.
Let me see the numbers first.
We do have a budget for responding to storms.
Right. I mean, you were planning on replacing it anyway. So here you are. I just like to know how much was actually received from the federal government and what did that money go for?
Sure, I can share that with you. And I would just like to say also that it would be great if the storms came through and knocked down all the rotten poles. Unfortunately, they don't.
Put a sign on them. They'll do better next time.
Along with the rotten ones. So there's some new stuff that gets knocked down too. So.
I got you, but we just need I would like to know that. How much money we're talking about. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McGowan. For waiting and being around. Thank you.
Next to the last card is Pamela Moses.
Pamela Moses, 2383 Jackson Avenue. I had a lot to say, but I'm just going to keep this short because I know people want to get home to their family and get prepared for this Thanksgiving weekend or week. But I just want to say that the level of disrespect with some of the men on this council to the women is really bad. And the main reason I came here is because you're considering giving a raise to someone that hadn't even done anything, but I asked the same city council for $15,000 to a working project in Hollywood, and you only gave us $1,500, basically denying us the right to even be able to do it without philanthropy dollars, but it's gonna get done regardless. But I just wanna say, when it comes to our tax dollars, you do not think about us. And we are you, we are the people. Every dollar that we spend on taxes should be spent according to the people's needs. Now, I spoke with Mr. McGowan, even though he's gone, but I believe that he's gonna work on some community projects with some of these energy dollars coming, and hopefully we don't have to keep coming here asking for it. But I really think that before you give somebody a raise, you should look at what Miss Sherilyn or CJ is doing. And I'll say nothing. I am very dissatisfied with the leadership of our police department. I think you should send her back to Atlanta or wherever she came from, because there's some good police officers like the colonel downtown that know how to handle all people, the Palestinians, the black, and just because they're not black, you didn't give them consideration for this job. But I think that we need to consider, some other people to lead our crime problem. There's a crime problem in Memphis, and the person is getting ready to take charge when you leave, Mr. Councilman Jones, is not ready for this job. So the city council is our check and balance. And so y'all gonna have to make sure the right things are in place. And giving somebody a raise before they start the job, That's not right, and you know it. And I
Thank you,
don't know
Ms.
what the
Moses.
reason is,
Thank you,
but
Ms.
I just
Moses.
say, one more thing. I don't know what the reason is, but I hope that you will consider the community
Ms.
getting a
Moses,
raise.
thank you. Mr. Walter Brody.
Good evening. How y'all doing?
You gotta pray my mother-in-law that knows
He said, bless the turkey.
Oh, okay. I got the scripture and then we're gonna go into prayer. It's 1 Samuel 23rd, 2nd verse. And it says, therefore David inquired of the Lord, said, shall I go and spike the Philistines? And the Lord said unto David, go and spike the Philistines and say Keilah, and meaning ask God for any, ask God before you do anything. This for all the people who's gonna be the new city councilman and the mayor, because he's gonna definitely need some help from God and not people. So let's go in prayer right now. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you right now, Father God, for allowing me to come down here, Father God. Continue to bless all the city council members, Father God, all the new ones coming in, Father God. Continue to bless our mayor, Father God, because he's going to have a whole lot of stuff on him, Father God. Give him the Holy Spirit to give him the right answer, Father God. Him and both of our mayors. And now Sherwood County Commission, bless everybody who came here today, Father God, and voiced their opinion. Bless all our leaders, bless our president, our vice president, every Republican, Democrat, independent, communist, senator. Father God, bless everybody in this community, this state, this country, and all around the world in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen and amen.